It was a cold, cloudy Windenburg day, the perfect morning for a vampire and a soon-to-be vampire to marry one another, with the seething pain in the shape of bites on the side of her neck. Nicole was feeling more than ready to become Caleb Vatore's wife, but it almost seems like Caleb was more excited than she was. Sprinting over to the wedding arch, "Bladdy Daddy, you're actually alive. I don't think I've seen this man once in this save file." Nicole was trying to figure out how and hell that strange vampire knew she was currently transitioning into one, but she'd ask Caleb about it later. Right now, it was all about them. Nothing else mattered. She walked through the beautiful Von Hont Estates gardens in her non-traditional wedding dress, meeting her excited fiancé at the arch overlooking the pond. They made it. She couldn't believe they made it. It felt like forever ago when Nicole first saw Caleb for the first time, and she witnessed him get dragged to filth by Greg the werewolf. He barely knew her and he risked his life for her. That's how she knew he was the guy for her. No one had ever done anything like that for her before. She felt like no one really cared, like she was invisible or stuck in the shadows, or the forgotten middle child. Sorry, Nicole. That's probably my fault. What Caleb did for her, despite them being complete strangers, made her feel seen. He makes her feel like she matters, and that was only from far away. While she was in Moonwood Mill and he was in Forgotten Hollow, they said their vows, flirted a lot, and gave each other lots of love and encouragement before saying their I do's, officially becoming Mr. and Mrs. Vatore. Nicole couldn't believe it. She was a married woman. She dropped the werewolf life and the wolf name. She was officially Mrs. Nicole Vatore. She was eager to begin their lives. She wanted to go to their home in Forgotten Hollow and plan out their honeymoon and what they would do next. But she had to do something first. It was finally time to tell Chris everything. Edward actually made some friends besides Clint and his wife. Shocker, the Vatores made their way back to Moonwood Mill, Nicole telling her husband to wait nearby, and she called her father Chris over to the Moonwood Collective Pack hangout. Right off the bat, Chris could tell there was something different about his daughter. He couldn't smell her anymore, not like before. He was a bit concerned, and that's when Nicole let it spill. She hated being a werewolf and took the cure. Chris was shocked. He was heartbroken. Being a wolf was his entire life. How could she possibly hate the gift she was born with? She explained to him that she didn't see it as a gift, but as a curse. She was always tense, angry, or sad. She barely slept. She was always rampaging and could never keep her temperaments under control. She was miserable, and it didn't seem like he noticed or bothered to help. She would rather die than continue living her life like that. She was sorry for not telling him sooner, but she was worried about how he would react. Even though Chris was a bit upset, he understood that werewolfism wasn't for everyone. He even explained that to his wife Alexis when she asked for the cursed bite all those years ago. But unlike Alexis, Nicole didn't have that choice. He understood where she was coming from. Nicole was glad to hear her dad understood her decision. But that wasn't the only thing she had to tell him. She was now a married woman and would be leaving the nest to live with her husband tonight. Again, Chris was shocked, but more upset this time. How could she possibly get married without telling anyone in the family? Nicole agreed that it was wrong of her to hold this secret from them for so long, but there was a reason. Her heart was racing as she spat the words out. She had married a vampire and was currently transitioning into one herself. Unlike her becoming a human, Chris did not agree with her becoming a vampire. Why on earth would she want to become a filthy bloodsucker? Did her so-called husband have anything to do with this? He wanted to see him and see him now. Nicole started getting aggressive. There was no need for him to speak to her like that, but Caleb heard them fighting and figured he may as well come to his wife's side. Chris remembered exactly who Caleb was. He fought Greg off from Nicole, which he was grateful for, but he was disgusted that Nicole ended up with him out of everyone. But Nicole didn't care. She was done hiding her feelings from everyone. everyone. It was time she put herself first for once, and Chris realized that once he saw how Nicole looked at Caleb and how she kissed him, it reminded him of when he fell in love with Alexis. In truth, Chris was not accepting of Nicole's decision. It repulsed him, and so did Caleb. Vampirism is demonic, and he didn't believe he would ever get over his hatred for it. But Nicole is his daughter. She seemed happier than ever. She was right. He could have been there more. He saw her rampages and never really offered any guidance. He figured she'd get the hang of it eventually, like Alexis and Jacob did. Jacob, the second child of his that he lost. He lost Rory too. He was about to lose his wife. He didn't want to lose a third child because of his own deep-seated issues with vampires. So, as much as he wanted to say more, he bit his tongue. More than anything, he just wanted his children to be happy. Maybe he had some reflecting he needed to do. After all, Nicole didn't feel like she could tell her family about her relationship for a reason. He made it clear to Caleb he didn't necessarily like him, but as long as he treated his daughter well, he was willing to work on that, and that was good enough for Nicole. Now it was time to tell everyone else. But first, Sage had to age up before midnight, because today is his birthday. His calm infant days had come to an end. Autumn was a bit sad, but was excited to see what was to come. Upon aging up, Sage gained the silly and inquisitive traits. Let's see what he looks like. Pretty much exactly the same, but with a bit more of Shanna coming through. Chris was going to have major trouble accepting this. He was trying his hardest to not explode as he watched Nicole mac on her husband. But that's the thing about having children. You're not always going to agree with the choices they make, and he admired Nicole for following her heart. Alexis is so old that she's starting to have problems controlling her bladder. Lovely. Nicole walked over to her discovered mother and told her the news. She was married and would be leaving to move in with her husband right now. She was sure Chris would tell her all the details. Alexis was so happy for her. She then went upstairs to tell her big sister. Autumn, like Alexis, was thrilled for her baby sister, and since Clint, Shanna, and Red Table Talk was sound asleep, she would call them in the morning and say goodbye to her nephew Sage instead. She would probably miss him the most. And with that, it was time for the Vatores to head back to Forgotten Hollow, wait for Nicole to transition, and begin forever with one another. Goodbye, Nicole. I will miss you so much, but that's okay, because we will be seeing her here and there for a very, very long time.